Hello, welcome back. I'm Sage and you're watching Kalkine TV, live from Sydney. This is a Sectoral Pulse show by Kalkine TV, a special show covering all sectoral movements from the markets for the day. And the Australian share market started trade on Monday in the green, led by strong results from Westpac, after finishing last week on a weak note. ASX 200 on Monday opened lower, tracking sluggish global cues. The Australian benchmark equity index ASX 200 today dipped 2.80 points to 7,023 at the opening. However, the broader index soon rebounded and gained 0.53% in the first hour of the trading session. The US indices closed lower on Friday after major tech firms such as Apple and Alphabet declines despite robust earnings. And moving on to the big news from the banking sector. In the country, Australia's second biggest lender, Westpac Banking Corporation, lifted the mood of the market after releasing upbeat earnings. However, the gains were capped by losses in miners and energy companies on weak commodity prices. The top percentage gainers were Charter Hall Group, followed by Ampol Limited and Blackmores Limited. The S&P ASX 200 index is up 22 points to 7,048. From the sectoral front, financial stocks were the biggest percentage gainers, with Australia and New Zealand Banking Group and Commonwealth Bank of Australia gaining. Westpac jumped as much as 4.4% after it reported a near threefold jump in its first half cash earnings, and it laid out a 3-year plan to cut costs. Miners were down, led by De Grey Mining Limited, followed by Aurelia Metals, and among gold miners, Andromeda Metals, Calidus Resources soared. Meanwhile, the energy sub-index was down 0.7%. Now for updates from the global markets. The Asian share markets got off to a slow start on Monday owing to holidays in China and Japan. Investors will also keenly watch a flurry of data announcements this week, which should show the US leading a global economic recovery. MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan was flat after taking a bit of a spill on Friday. Japan's Nikkei is shut for a holiday, while Nikkei futures edged up. Wall Street extended its bull run, with Nasdaq futures and S&P 500 futures both trading up. It is a busy week for US economic data, particularly for the ISM manufacturing survey and April payrolls. The Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell is due to speak later on Monday and will be followed by a raft of Fed officials this week. From the currency front, the dollar index stood at 91.253 and off a 2-month trough of 90.422, though it still ended April with a loss of 2%. The euro was steady at $1.2026. And the dollar has fared better on the yen at 109.29. The Australian dollar was trading up 0.13% to 0.7729, and the US dollar index fell 0.735%. The Australian dollar is a commodities currency, implying that nay surge or decline in the prices of the commodities dictate the movements of the domestic currency, and the Aussie pair marked the biggest monthly gain in 2021 despite the recent pullback in April. The downward pressure remains present at the start of May, even as buyers defend 0.7700. Over To the commodity markets, gold held to a narrow range around $1,768 an ounce, sidelined in part by investor interest in cryptocurrencies as an alternative hedge against inflation. Ether hit a record high on Monday to trade within a whisker of $3,000, extending last week's rally in the wake of a report that the European Investment Bank, or EIB, could launch a digital bond sale on the Ethereum blockchain network. Oil prices ran into profit, taking on Friday, but still ended the month with gains. The crude oil prices declined amid concerns around wider lockdowns in India and Brazil. The investors are worried that coronavirus-induced restrictions may impact the demand of the commodity. Crude oil prices edged higher by 1% after refining activity picked up, and the Brent crude futures settled 1.9% down at US $67.26 a barrel, while the WTI crude futures closed 2.26% down at $63.54 US per barrel. Beach Energy Limited, Santos Limited, Woodside Petroleum Limited, Viva Energy Group Limited all fell in the opening trade. And from the cryptocurrency market, Bitcoin traded higher by 0.18% to $57,531.96 US. The popular digital currency rose more than 10% on the last day of April to erase most of the losses for the month. And now let's have a look at the news that matters. Australia's fourth largest city faces prospects of its second snap lockdown in less than a month after a hotel quarantine. Security guard in Perth and two of his housemates tested positive for COVID-19. Western Australian Premier Mark McGowan said the state's capital city, which last week emerged from a 3-day snap lockdown after reporting one COVID-19 infection, was on high alert and a new lockdown was a real prospect. However, he said there were no plans to impose a lockdown on Sunday as was earlier feared. Australia has all but stamped out community infections after closing its borders to non-citizens in March 2020, recording just 29,800 cases and 910 deaths. The country, which has no other community transmissions of the coronavirus, this weekend banned citizens who had been in India within 14 days from returning home, as the world's second most populous nation contends with a surge in COVID-19 cases and deaths. Meanwhile, New Zealand, which last month agreed to a quarantine and COVID testing-free travel bubble with Australia, has paused travel from Western Australia, cancelling 2 flights due to arrive on Sunday. Australian residents and citizens who have been in India within 14 days of the date they plan to return home will be banned from entering Australia as of Monday, and those who disobey will face fines and jail. The temporary emergency determination issued late on Friday is the first time Australia has made it a criminal offence for its citizens to return home. The restrictions come into effect from May the 3rd, and breaching the ban risks civil penalties and up to 5 years imprisonment. Health Minister Greg Hunt said in a statement, and the government will reconsider the restrictions on May the 15th. Thank you for your time watching. That's all for now. Do keep watching Kalkine TV as we bring you the latest news and trending market updates live from the studios here in Sydney. Sage signing off for now.